Hello, Finxters. Now, in today's lecture, we will be learning how to get the file name without the extension from a path in Python. So there are numerous ways of doing this. So, without further delay, let us dive into the solutions one by one. So, the first approach to solve our problem is to use the split text method of the OS module. So, all you have to do is to import the OS module and then use its split text method, which will help you to split the entire path into two parts, and then you can use it to solve the problem. Now, before we dive into the solution, let us understand what split text exactly does. It is nothing but a method that splits the entire path into two parts. So these parts are the root and the extension. So if you are confused, let's have a look at an example that will make things clear. So let's say that this is a folder, and within this, I have the file demo.txt. Now I simply want to go ahead and extract demo, which is the name of the file, without its extension, which is txt. Now our first task is to go ahead and copy the path. So let's right click on this. Let's move on to properties, and there we go. Here we have the location of the file. So let's copy it. Okay, our first task is done. Now let's go ahead and open up PyCharm. Now our first task here is to import the OS module. So let's import that. Now let's store our path within a variable by the name path. Okay. Now please note that this will lead to the occurrence of an error because a single backslash is considered as an escape character by Python. So in order to overcome this, you can simply use a raw string literal r, and that will inform Python that this right here is an entire path. Now the entire path is not just this should be demo.txt because that is the name of the file. So this will open up the entire file. So this is our entire path to the file. Now let's go ahead and see what happens when we use the split text method on this. So let's say that we have a variable x, and within this, let's go ahead and use os.path.splitext. And now within split text, let us pass path as an argument. Okay, so that's done. Now let's visualize the output with the help of a print statement. So let's print x. Now let's see what is returned. And there we go. As you can see that the output is a tuple which consists of two elements. The first element is the root or the entire path, while the second element is the extension. So we have already separated the extension in this step. All we have to do now is to go ahead and grab the first element from this tuple and then extract the last text, which is demo. Now we are going to understand how we are going to do it. So let's remove this print statement. And now let's go ahead and unpack this tuple and store them in two different variables such that the first variable is root and the second variable is extension. Okay, so root is storing the entire path while extension is storing .txt, which is the extension of our file demo.txt. Let's further visualize this. Let's print root. Okay, and there we go. As you can see that we have the entire path without its extension or without the extension of the file. Now we have to extract demo. In order to extract demo, we have to use the split method. So let's say that we have a variable by the name file_name, and within this we will be storing the name of the file, which is demo. So we simply go ahead and grab the entire path, which is stored within root dot, and then we will use the split method. Now within split, we have to pass this backslash character. And to understand why we are passing this backslash character, let us go ahead and understand what the split method does. So the split method splits the string at a given separator and returns a split list of substrings. So let's visualize this. So all you have to do is to pass this backslash character within our split method. Now, as I mentioned previously, that Python will consider this backslash as an escape character. In order to tell Python that this is not an escape character, rather you must treat it as a string, you have to use couple of backslashes. Now let's go ahead and print file_name to visualize how the split method is working. Okay. Now let's execute this piece of code. So when we split this entire string, we find that the last element or the last item within this list is demo. All we have to do now is to go ahead and extract demo and print it as an output. So how do we extract demo from this list? All you have to do is to use negative indexing -1, and there we go. So this tells Python to extract the last item from the list file_name and then print it as an output. So let's go ahead and execute this piece of code to find out what happens. As you can see that we have the expected output displayed on the output screen. And this is how you can use the split text method along with the split method to extract the file name without its extension. So let's have a quick recap of what we did. We went ahead and splitted this entire file path into two parts and stored them in a couple of variables. So what were those two parts? Those two parts were the root, that is this section of the string, and then we extracted the extension, which is .txt, and stored it in another variable, which is ext. Now we needed the help of this root variable, which stores this section of the string, which is the root. And then we went ahead and used the split method and passed the / character to it to store all the strings present within this entire root string in a list. Finally, we went ahead and extracted the last element from that list, which was demo, and we printed it as an output. So this is how this entire piece of code works. Now in the second approach, we will simply use the split method and extract just the file name from the entire path. So let's go ahead and find out how that works. So what we will be doing now is that we will use the split method twice. So let's say that we have a variable by the name root, and within it, we are going to use path.split. And now we will split this entire path into two parts such that the argument that we will pass within the split method is dot. So what root will be storing is a list consisting of two elements, wherein the first element or the first item is this part, and the second element or the second item is this part, that is the extension. So let's visualize this with the help of a print statement. Let's print root. And there we go. As you can see that we have a list consisting of two items. The first item is this, while the second item is this. Now we need to extract only the first item from this list. So we are going to do that with the help of the index within the square brackets. So let's pass 0, which will help us to select the first item from this list. Okay. Now let's once again go ahead and print root and find out what it stores. So as you can see, now root stores this section of our path string. From this, we now again have to extract demo. And we already learned how we can do that with the help of the split method. So let's say that we have a variable by the name file_name, and within it, we are going to store root.split, and within split, we will pass couple of backslashes. Now let's execute this piece of code. I hope you understand what's happening here because I just explained this previously. So let's execute it now. Oops, I made couple of mistakes. First, I simply printed root, and second, within file name, I have to extract the last element from the list. But to understand that, first let us visualize what file name stores at this point of time. Okay, so as you can see that file name is a list which consists of the following strings. And from these strings, we need to extract the file name, which is demo. So to do that, we are going to use negative indexing and pass -1 within the square brackets. And this will help us to extract demo. So let's execute this. And there we go. We have successfully extracted the file name. So this is how you can use the split method couple of times to extract file name without its extension. Now let us move on to another method which will help us to solve this problem. So the third way of solving our problem is to use the rfind method. Now let's understand what the rfind method does. The rfind method returns the highest index in the string where a substring is found. So let's have a look at this example wherein we have Finxter in space dot rfind, and within rfind we are passing in. Since in is found at the 8th index, hence the output is 8. Now let's understand how we can use the rfind method to solve our problem. Let's use a variable v, and within this we are going to store path dot rfind, and within rfind we are going to pass dot. So what we are essentially doing is we are finding the index of dot. So it doesn't matter wherever this dot is present in our path string, only the highest index of dot, that is the index where dot occurred at the last time, will be printed. So let's go ahead and let's print v. So as you can see that the index of dot in our path string is 45. So now that we know the index of dot, we can easily slice our string such that we will be extracting only this section of the string. So let's see how we can slice our string. We can simply go ahead and use another variable x such that x will store the following sliced string. So path is our entire string, and now we are going to use string slicing. So we will start slicing from the first index or the 0th index until the index of dot, which is v. So this essentially means that x now stores this section highlighted on the screen within it. So let's go ahead and print x before we do anything else. And there we go. So we have successfully extracted this section of our path string. Now all that remains to be done is to extract demo from this. And we have extracted demo previously from this string, and we are going to use the same method to do that. So that means we are once again going to use the split method here. So let's say that we have a variable by the name file_name, which is equal to x.split, and within split we are passing the backslash. Okay, now let's go ahead and print file name. And if you remember, we have to extract the last element which is stored within file name. So let's visualize file name first. So there we go. This is file name, which is a list consisting of the following strings, and we have to extract demo from it. So to extract demo, we have to use the square bracket notation, and within it, we have to pass -1, which is negative indexing. That will help us to extract the last item from this list. Okay, now let's execute this, and there we go. So we have our output, and this is how you can use the rfind method along with the split method to solve this problem. A very simple way of solving this problem is to use the stem method of the pathlib module. So all you have to do is to go ahead and import the pathlib module and then use the stem method on the path, which will help you to extract the file name from the whole path such that it will return only the file name without the extension. So let's visualize this with the help of our code. So our first task is to go ahead and import pathlib. So let's import it, import pathlib. Okay. Then we have the path. Now let's say that we have a variable file_name. Then we have to use the pathlib module dot path, and within path method we have to pass the path which is stored within the variable path in this code dot, and then we use the stem property. Now all we have to do is to go ahead and print file_name, and this should yield us the answer that we need, which is the name of the file, that is demo. So let's execute this code, and there we go. We have demo as an output. So this is how you can use the pathlib module and use its stem property to reach the final output. Another way of solving our problem is to use the rpartition function. So let's understand what the rpartition function does. It is a function which can be used to get the file name without the extension from a file path in Python. So what it does is that it searches for the last occurrence of a given string and then splits it into a tuple which consists of 3 elements. So among those 3 elements, the first element is the separator that is being used. The second and the third element is the string before the separator. and the string after the separator. Thus, we are going to use this property of rpartition function to separate the given path string such that the first path returned will include the whole path without the extension, which is the root, and then to print the file name without the extension, we just have to use the split function. Finally, we will print the last element from the whole path that is extracted. Now I know that this is a lot to grasp, so let us go ahead and try to understand this with the help of our code. So this is the piece of code that helps us to solve the problem with the help of the rpartition method. And now we are going to understand each line of this code. So this variable path stores the entire path of our given file. Now we have a variable by the name file which stores the output produced by the rpartition method. So what we are doing is we are applying the rpartition method upon our path such that we are passing dot as an argument to the rpartition method. Now what this rpartition method will do is that it will create a tuple. So that means that file essentially is a tuple storing three things or three items. The first item is the portion of the path string which comes before this separator, which is dot. So this is the section of the string which comes before dot. Then the second element in the tuple will be the separator itself, which is dot. And the third element of this tuple will be the portion of the string which comes after the dot, which is txt. So let us go ahead and use a print statement and let's print file. So let's find out what file stores within it. Let me comment this out. Let me execute this piece of code once again. Okay, so file now stores three elements, which is the section of the path string that comes before dot, then dot itself, which is the separator, and then the section of the string which comes after dot, which is txt. Now we need to grab this string from the tuple. So we can simply grab this with the help of its index, and the index of this element is 0. So that is what we are extracting in this variable p. So p stores nothing but this section of the tuple or the first element of the tuple. So let's visualize that with the help of another print statement. Let's print p. And there we go. As you can see that p stores the first element from this tuple, which has been returned by the rpartition method. Now all that remains to be done is to extract demo from this string. And we have done this previously in all the approaches that we learned. So that means we are going to use the split method and then extract the last element from that list, which will be returned by the split method. So here's a variable which goes by the name file underscore n. And within file underscore n, we are storing p.split, and within split, we are passing the backslash. So let us go ahead and find out what file underscore n stores. And there we go. As you can see that file underscore n is a list consisting of the following strings. And from this list, we need to extract demo, which happens to be the last element of this list. So we have to use negative indexing in order to extract this. And that is exactly what we have done in this line of code, wherein we are extracting the last element from this list. Let me comment out all the other print statements and let's just print the output that we need. Okay, now let's execute this code. And there we go. We have demo, which is the name of the file, as an output. And this is exactly what we wanted. So this is how you can use the rpartition method to divide the given path string into three parts and then use it accordingly along with the split method to reach the final output, that is the name of the file.